Cossacks were exemplary knights of the frontier, defending cities and towns from the nomads of the Great Steppe. Living on the border of two competing civilizations, they learned to absorb the best aspects of both: European weapons, Turkic clothing, urban crafts, steppe trade, and family life in the hamlets alongside an almost monastic order of knighthood at the Sich. All these elements were combined in the Cossacks. The Cossack units were led by the best representatives of the old Rus princely nobility: Linsky, Putyatych, Dashkevich, Lyansk-Koronsky, Vishnevetsky. However, all Cossacks were free and equal in rights, forming a true fighting brotherhood that lived, worked, raised children, and supported each other in times of need. Cossacks themselves became the stable backbone on which our national state later rested. Prominent figures of the Hetman era played a crucial role in the formation of the Ukrainian state. One such figure is Petro Sahaidachny. He was an outstanding diplomat, brilliant commander, politician, colonel, hetman of the registered Cossacks, and Kish Ataman of the Zaporozhian Sich. He was also one of the founders of the Cossack fleet. He organized military campaigns against the Crimean Khanate, the Ottoman Empire, and the Moscow Tsardom. During Petro Konashevich's time, lands where our people lived were part of the triune vast Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, a state of Poles, Lithuanians, and us Ruthenians. Nations were still forming, and our Ruthenian identity was shaped through religion, Orthodox faith, since Poles and Lithuanians were predominantly Catholics. Therefore, Ukrainian princes, our nobility, including Petro Konashevich, made significant efforts to defend our Rus Church. Back then, the centers of our spirituality was the Ostrog Academy, founded by the princes of Ostrog, and Orthodox brotherhoods at monasteries. With the support of the Cossacks, and Hetman Sahaidachny in particular, the Kyiv Mohila Academy was established in Kyiv. Historian Mikhailo Khrushchevsky noted that Konashevich's contemporaries highly valued Petro Sahaidachny's political talent. Contemporaries praised Sahaidachny as a very reasonable and deep politician who knew how to effectively mobilize the Cossacks for the national causes, and made the Cossack army a pillar of Ukrainian national life. Sahaidachny ushered in a new era in Ukrainian life.
The hero of the national liberation movement was Bohdan Khmelnytsky, hetman of the Zaporozhian army and head of the Ukrainian hetmanate. At the beginning of the 17th century, national states and nations in the modern sense had not yet fully formed. Therefore, a state often consisted of very different territories ruled by one royal dynasty. During the life of Bohdan Khmelnytsky, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was struggling. The king essentially had no power, and the real authority was held by a few noble families, the magnates. Essentially, all of them were Catholics, and quite often, our Rus Orthodox nobility, along with Cossacks and peasants, suffered from the arbitrariness of the magnates. It was this very arbitrariness that Bohdan Khmelnytsky, a Cossack centurion at the time, encountered. He appealed to the king for justice, but the monarch replied, "You have a saber, so use it." This way, Khmelnytsky led a Cossack rebellion to defend our people's rights and freedoms. But this uprising soon escalated into a major war against the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, as the Cossacks chose Khmelnytsky as their new ruler of the renewed Rus state. The hetman was granted the title of Grand Prince of Rus, and Bohdan's son, Timish, was designated as the heir to the new ruling dynasty. Under Khmelnytsky's leadership, Ukraine was recognized internationally, with its status diplomacy acknowledged by the Austrian and Ottoman empires, the Margraviate of Brandenburg, the Republic of Venice, the Kingdom of Sweden, the Duchy of Prussia, the principalities of Wallachia and Transylvania, the Crimean Khanate, and others. Khmelnytsky sought military alliances with aforementioned states, since at the time, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was the most powerful military force in Europe, making it difficult for the young Ukrainian state to resist. At different times, his allies included Tatars and Ottomans, Muscovites and Swedes, the Principality of Transylvania, and the Moldavian ruler. However, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth eventually allied with the Moscow Tsar, and Moscow regiment started the gradual occupation of the cities on the left bank of Ukraine. Eventually, Muscovites led to the period in Ukrainian history known as the Ruin. Under Khmelnytsky, Ukraine established key aspects of statehood: its own armed forces, customs, financial, postal, and judicial services, internal and external trade. Funds were concentrated in the state treasury and therefore used for the development of the young state. This was a telling indicator of the full functioning of the Cossack state.
The figure of Petro Doroshenko, a Cossack colonel who in 1665 to 1676 was a hetman of the Zaporozhian army of the right bank Ukraine, and in 1668 to 1670 a head of the hetmanate, is often overshadowed by his predecessors and successors. Nevertheless, he is a prominent figure in Ukrainian state building. During the Ruin period, Doroshenko restored the unity and sovereignty of the Cossack state. He sought to unite left bank and right bank Ukraine amid geopolitical tensions between the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Moscow Tsardom, and Ottoman Empire. Under Doroshenko, new customs lines at the border were established, his own coins were minted, and uninhabited lands were colonized. Hetman Doroshenko briefly restrained the crawling occupation of our eastern territories by Muscovy. The Cossack free lands raised many bright and charismatic figures. Whoever dared to assume the hetman's mace understood the weight of the responsibility it entailed. Ivan Mazepa was such an individual.
Hetman of the Zaporozhian army and head of the Cossack state, Ivan Mazepa, became the first Ukrainian hetman who ruled for nearly 22 years. This was a period marked by economic, ecclesiastical, religious, and cultural growth in Ukraine hetmanate.
Mazepa sought to unite the Cossack lands of the left bank, right bank, Zaporizhia, Slobozhanщina, and Khan's Ukraine into a single Ukrainian state. He aimed to establish a strong hetmanate within a European state, preserving the traditional Cossack system of government. Unfortunately, the hetmanate faced severe challenges after the defeat at Poltava in 1709. This led to the decline of Ukrainian statehood. The first major Ukrainian politician to act in exile was Paliy, a Ukrainian political and military figure, general scribe, hetman of the Zaporozhian army in exile, publicist, and diplomat. He co-authored the treaties and resolutions of the rights and freedoms of the Zaporozhian army, a constitutional act considered the first Ukrainian constitution. Colonel Semen Paliy of Fastiv and Bila Tserkva is quite interesting. 40 years after Khmelnytsky's uprising, he established in Kiev, Bratslav, Podil, and Volyn regions a virtually independent state with its own regiments, self-government, and self-defense. During his campaigns in exile, his wife, Theodosia Paliy, led the state. The study of the gender dimensions of the Cossack era is just beginning. In Cossack traditions and folklore, the active presence of women is noticeable, suggesting that their role in Cossack society was no less important than that of men. However, women's participation in politics was limited by the patriarchal structure of Ukrainian society. The political groups that shaped Ukraine's direction shared patriarchal views on women's roles and their place in the family, thereby restricting their political rights and opportunities.
The mother colonel, or Paliy, as she was popularly known, came from a Cossack family. Her contemporaries described her as an energetic and intelligent woman who assisted her husband in all matters. Theodosia Paliy managed the economic affairs of the Fastiv Cossack regiment and the surrounding territories under her husband's rule. She also engaged in negotiations and diplomacy. During her husband's exile, Theodosia became one of the key figures on the right bank, defending our state's interests against the encroachment of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. She also participated in campaigns against the Muscovites. Semen Paliy's wife retained the support of the Fastiv and Bielotserkva regiments, which he led after the Battle of Poltava.
Women of high social status during the Hetmanate era were active philanthropists. They provided financial support to groups of intellectual men and women, created opportunities for the spread of education and scientific knowledge, and promoted book publishing. In doing so, they influenced the civic and cultural life of Ukraine. Women often funded the establishment of schools and colleges, allowing young people to study in national educational institutions. For example, Irena Solomiretska from the town of Halshka in Volyn donated funds to establish a male monastery and a school to teach the liberal arts to the children of the nobility and common people. The Halshka College became a well-known educational institution. Halshka Hulevychivna is one of the most renowned patrons of the Cossack era.
Halshka came from a wealthy noble family in Volyn and was twice married to prominent figures. She was involved in founding and supporting the Kyiv Mohila Academy after receiving a plot of land in Kyiv's Podil as a gift from her husband. Halshka decided to donate her tenement house, yard, and 10,000 Polish zloty to the Kyiv Orthodox community. On October 14, 1615, she signed the fundush, which was entered into the Kyiv municipal ledgers the following day. With this document, the noblewoman transferred her estate and land in Kyiv to establish a monastery, a hospital, and a school for children. All this was allocated to the monastery of the patriarchal Staropygian for communal life according to the order of Vasyl the Great, and to the school for noble and urban backgrounds, and for other ways that contributed to the worship and the education of virtuous students.
Halshka Hulevychivna made a great contribution to the establishment of the Kyiv Fraternal School, which was created to spread education and protect orthodoxy. With the support of Petro Mohila, in September 1632, the Kyiv Fraternal and Lavra schools united, forming the Kyiv Fraternal College. This institution became known as the Kyiv Mohila Academy. During the 17th and 18th centuries, the academy was the educational center of Ukraine. An intellectual elite was educated there, which influenced the spiritual and political life of the country.
Halshka Hulevychivna also supported the Lutsk Brotherhood of the Holy Cross Exaltation, founded in 1617. She provided funds for this brotherhood and bequeathed her estate for its benefit. The fact that women of that time were able to make their own wills testifies to their economic independence and their right to manage their property independently.
The Cossack era is a significant period in the development of Ukrainian statehood, with parallels to the state-building processes of our time. Both during the Cossack era and today, Ukraine suffers from a lack of conscious professional elites. Both then and now, the issue of social and political unity necessary to create a strong national state remain relevant.